Hello, and welcome to the Ilene Silverman Show. I'm your host, Ilene, and on this week's program, our guest shares some of the history of the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center and their mission, and discuss how the community can continue to be a part of its future. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us for our program. I am honored and delighted to introduce my guests, Vivian Filer, Chair of the Board of Directors, Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center, and Patricia Hilliard-Nunn, Board Member of the CCMCC. And just to say Chair and Board Member doesn't even begin to say all of your contributions to this wonderful project. And so I applaud you, I do, for bringing this Cotton Club Museum to fruition. And it's been quite a journey, I know.
Thank you, Ilene.
Oh, well,
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we want to thank you for having us. We appreciate the work that you've done to preserve history in Alachua County in Florida, and thank you for your support of the Cotton Club.
Well, I appreciate that. I do, Patricia and Vivian. And,
Yes.
you know, you had such a wonderful ribbon cutting recently, early November, that was celebrated the renovation of the Cotton Club Museum, that brought people there, and there's such a sense of history. You're noted, Vivian, as a storyteller. So certainly this Cotton Club Museum, and Patricia, your knowledge of history, it has so many stories to tell.
Yes.
But of course the best story of all is just the story of the Cotton Club itself and its rich history and why
Yes.
now it's a museum.
Absolutely.
So kind of take us all into this process.
Well, being a storyteller has been really important to me, but having the ability and the time to tell this story is just really big in my life, because what we're doing now is bringing a piece of African American history to life. And it touches so many people. This building really has brought to Gainesville a new sense of being. It didn't always, because we didn't know the story. But when my church purchased the land in the mid-90s, my minister said to me, Sister Filer, I want you to see about saving that building. Well, that was great, because I didn't know a thing about saving buildings, but I knew I could find out about saving buildings.
Yeah. And Patricia could do it, yeah.
Right.
If anybody could do it.
Right. Well, the history of this building was that it came from Camp Landing, built by the soldiers in World War II. The soldiers actually cut the trees, milled the lumber, and built the buildings early 40s. When the war ended and those buildings were sold away, this one was brought to Gainesville, placed in where it is now. There's been many stories of how it arrived here in pieces or whatever.
Right.
Stories about whether it's one building or two buildings put together. The bottom line is it was the PX, Post Exchange, on campus at Camp Landing. We've been to Camp Landing, we've talked to them, we've seen things there. So we tied in very well with the history of the soldiers in this building and where it sits. So we're very proud of that.
Right.
We're
That's
very
why
proud
the
of that.
ribbon cutting was on Veterans Day.
Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
appropriate.
Yeah, I thought that worked out very well. Veterans Day, the building, because some people are like, and even me, I was like, okay, Veterans Day, but yeah, that represents the origins of that space.
Exactly.
And then the other part is the fact that this was placed in the Spring Hill community here in Gainesville, Florida.
Yes.
You know, such a gift, working on opening a museum.
Yes.
And cultural center
Yeah.
right there across the street from where Miss Filer grew up. And I want to add that we are in her 80th year on this planet. So
Yes.
in addition to her effort as a nurse, as the storyteller, as a community activist, and many other things, she has took on this project and brought it to this point.
For years.
Yeah, so we will be celebrating that 80th birthday. And so we're just
I will be there.
very thankful
Yes.
for her. But that's her community. And And I would like
That's
for you to
her
share.
roots,
So
her
those are
sense of
her
history.
roots.
Yeah.
Although her roots are all over the community. You know, people here they're all related. So.
I know.
But that Spring Hill community and the connection to the railroad, the connection to the school's education, the school system, the connection to just the regular families who settled in
who
that
lived there,
community,
right.
who had skills, who built and who passed on these stories. And so it's really an honor for us to be able to provide a space to tell those stories, to explain what did the people do, where did they live, what did their homes look like.
Right. What was it like? What was their culture, their music,
Yes.
It's
their
all
books,
there.
their food,
Yeah, it's all there.
everything.
Yeah, and it's very important to recognize that we are the Spring Hill neighborhood. We are the original Spring Hill neighborhood. We want people to really know we were Spring Hill.
You were
first.
there,
We're
right.
one of the oldest African American communities in Gainesville. So there's a lot of history there. We were there during the shotgun house era. And we're
Right.
saving shotgun houses on that spot.
As part of this
so that
site.
history may be retained and folk may learn where we were coming from. That neighborhood was my neighborhood. It still is a great neighborhood. Everybody around the structure loves it. And they say that to me. But more importantly is the fact that they take ownership for what's there.
For what's
They're
there.
neighborly and they take ownership for that. And so what we want to
Has
do
meaning.
is be an inspiration. We want to be an economic advantage in that we'll hire people to work there. We want to bring culture into there. We want to bring the schools. We're down the street from Williams Elementary School.
Right, and-
Years and years ago, when we were the original old building, I walked every single class there from Williams School, starting with kindergarten.
Yes.
Walked them to the site. We had stories on site. I gave them water, sang them songs, and walked them back. Well, out of that, they decided to construct their own cotton club in their school.
Oh, you were sharing.
And that was awesome.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That's
That was awesome.
That meant
but one
you
look-
were reaching them and
Yes.
changing their
They
lives.
loved it. And I met a little girl who was in high school now. She said, Miss Fowler, do you remember when you walked us down to the Cotton Club Museum? And that's important. Does not mean something
that
to
is
her.
the sense of history.
Yeah,
And we're going
yeah.
to take a quick
Yes.
break,
Okay.
Vivian. We'll be right back. Stay with us. We're back talking about the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center. And this building that has been restored, this Cotton Club Museum now, its history is really fascinating.
It is very
So it's moved from Camp Blanding into the Spring Hill community, and share the history of it with us because it's just so phenomenal.
Well, its placement in the Spring Hill neighborhood, it was placed there to become a theater. When that didn't pan out so well, it was purchased by Miss Sarah McKnight, who was a businesswoman with businesses all over Gainesville, actually.
Right.
And she decided to turn it into a big bands club and name it after the Cotton Club in Harlem. That's where it got its name from. At that time, very famous people were traveling on the Chitlin Circuit, which meant
Okay.
that they were going into cities that had a hotel where they could live and go from there out to other ventures that were close by.
Right.
Gainesville had the Dunbar Hotel, which made it a center of the Chitlin Circuit for the areas close
And
around it.
explain what years you're talking about
We're
and
talking
what
about
life
the-
was like for
Yes.
African Americans at
Well,
that
during the
point.
segregation era, and this is
Okay.
where we were, the 40s
Yes.
and the 50s, even the 60s, but this era is the 40-50. We're in the segregated America. So if they didn't live in their cars, they had to stay at a hotel, but they had to seek those places all over wherever
Right.
they could get into a hotel, and that's what
A
happened.
hotel
So,
that would be for blacks
African
only,
Americans.
For African
There weren't that
Americans.
many around.
And-
And the Dunbar Hotel is still there as a building. It's not, it doesn't have its name anymore, but we need to do something about that, and we will. It's right off of West 8th Avenue, just behind the police station, that
Okay,
two-story
I know.
building. That's the Dunbar Hotel.
And so these entertainers, like B.B. King,
Yes.
like James Brown,
Yes.
like Bo Diddley,
Yes.
because they were African American, they could not entertain in the white-owned
Oh, absolutely.
clubs.
They
So
no, they could
Chitlin
entertain.
Circuit was their place,
Yes.
the
Yeah.
only place.
No, but they could entertain in white places, but we couldn't go there. But in
Okay.
a black domain, they could entertain for their own people.
Got it.
And so
There's
there
the
comes the
distinction.
chitlin circuit, because they could always perform in white clubs.
Right.
After then, it became the Cotton Club, and enjoyed by all, people all around. It finally drew the attention of the students from the University of Florida, who were just into having a good time. They didn't.
Right. Okay,
segregation wasn't what they were after. So they started to come there, and at a point that was not good with the city fathers, so they didn't renew the license. Then it went from the Cotton Club to what was known as the Blue Note Club, which is just before it went into becoming a bad cop warehouse. My church purchased this property, Mount Olive African Methodist Episcopal Church in Gainesville, Florida, purchased this property in the mid-90s.
Okay, right there in
Right
Spring Hill,
there,
right
right
near
there.
the
That
building.
1.6 acres of land,
Right.
which had 4 shotgun houses, an old store, and the great big hall that we
Okay.
call the
All
Cotton
of that,
Club.
the cultural
All of that is
center
one
now.
big bit. At one point, we are planning to turn that into a heritage village, because we want to restore all the buildings that are restorable, if that's a word, on the
Right.
site, and we will be trying to do that. But right now, it's important to know that we are preserving the past and building the future. So this
Well said,
is our
yes.
goal. We have preserved the past in that we've preserved this room. Now we're going to use education and cultural events and artists coming in to bring in children and to do all of those things that would take to not only inform our people of our history, but all people. African American history is American history.
It is.
And so we can't
And
go
when we
about
leave that
saying-
out, we
Yes.
leave out a big chunk, a big piece.
Yeah, and every time we talk about it, if it's my friends used to get a black book and think that I needed to read it, and they didn't. And I'm saying, I'll probably know the book. I'm probably the
That's
book.
right. Yes, you're
And
part
so
of the book.
how am I going to ever
We
get
need
you
to
to
read
know
the
about
book.
me until you read the book? And so I think that's a
Yes.
big deal.
You're right, because otherwise we can't appreciate the history of each other and grow from that and learn more so that we're more alike than different in the end.
Exactly.
So it's important.
And this is something that we've been doing at the Cotton Club, even as we've been working to restore it. We've had
You've had your
programs,
educational programs.
Concerts,
Right.
and all sorts of things to help people understand that history, not only of the Spring Hill area, but of Florida, of individuals who've passed this way. So
Right.
this will be a continuation of that.
Of that journey.
And we've collaborated with other organizations. With the Cade Museum, we have
Oh,
in the
that's
past
true.
years had something called Cotton to Cade.
Right.
And then we would have the audience
Been part of
visiting to be on a trail from the Cotton Club
That
up to
shows
the
you.
Cade Museum. And we have presented African American inventors. One year we did swing dancing.
Right.
And we
Oh,
taught
yes.
it right on site. Another year we taught tambourines. We gave tambourines to everybody and taught them how to play. Another year we had a harmonica player.
Harmonicas.
And
Oh,
we
yes.
taught that right on site. And then one kid learned a song and did it right
This
then.
is so
those are the
exciting.
cultural
Those are the cultural events.
That's what music is, a big part of who we are.
Yes, I see
That's,
that.
And
Your
we put that
history,
with our main,
all the
one
way
of
up
our-
to now.
Absolutely.
We're going to take another break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center with Vivian Filer, and I'm pleased to introduce Dolores Rentz, Financial Secretary for the organization. And the sense of history is so fascinating. My husband, Harvey Budd, and I were proud to be donors, to be part of the Blue Note. The Blue Notes, going back to that club where there's still a faded sign after the Cotton Club had ended, and you can still see that to this day. So we're all part of your history, because this is all of our history. But it has taken a lot of people to get here. So kind of, Dolores, Vivian, let us understand more of that process.
Well, the original process, once I had the message that this was something I was going to do, I had the good fortune of meeting Brad Guy, who was in Dr. Charles Kipper's office, Powell Center, and the Rinker School of Construction, University of Florida. And he helped me to gain feasibility study money, $5,000, which allowed them then to look at the building to see if it was worth saving. And that was our connection with Charles Kipper and the Powell Center. And we still have
Yes,
that
that
relationship.
continues now.
Yeah. till today. And it's important to note that that we did become a 501c3 project. So
Okay.
we're not a church project. We are a community nonprofit.
Right.
With the 501c3
Yes, no,
designation.
that is important to know.
And following that, we've of course gained a lot of support from many, many people in the community and various kinds of support. We've had grants from the state. There was the original state grant
Yes.
for
Right.
about $300,000 from the State Historic Preservation Society. Our most recent state-funded grant came from the State Department of Cultural Affairs for over $400,000, and that grant is what helped us get to the point where we are today. But that state money, just as importantly, if not as important, has been funding that has come from individuals as well as from the local government. The CRA with the City
Exactly.
of Gainesville
Right.
has been a tremendous funder. We've had a large number of private individuals that have contributed to the project. And so many, many people feel ownership, not only
Definitely.
because they've contributed money, but because they've supported the project in other ways. And so whenever we have events or activities, our cultural, our educational programs, those individuals have come to support the Cotton Club Museum.
And as we've been saying, there's a feeling of ownership because of that, and certainly in the Spring Hill community, but for everyone
Absolutely.
that's been a part of it. Of course, you still are looking forward to the next phase. You're sort of between, you've accomplished phase one and
Right.
phase two you're in the middle of. There's many things, more
Right.
plans, more needs.
Absolutely, because we restored the building, and that's why we had the ribbon cutting to let the community know that we were working, that we have achieved, we restored the building, but we are now in the phase of actually building the museum. And when I say building the museum, that means building the things that are a part of the exhibits as well as developing our programs. And as we mentioned before, when you look at our mission,
Right.
our vision, having to do with preserving history. So we want to build exhibits that relate to that.
To that.
We'll also have traveling exhibits from different areas.
Excellent.
And so there are a number of programs that we want to include. And as a result of that, we have to now obtain those things that will go into the building. Things like curtains for the stage,
Right.
the development of the acoustics for the building, furniture, tables and chairs. We will be a rental facility so that people in the community will be able to rent the facility for programs and things that are in line with our mission.
Right, with your mission. So yes, because you have a beautiful stage, but you can hold about how many people would you say at the?
Between 250 and 300.
Okay, right. So that's some great opportunities for the community, and we're going to take just another quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're back talking about the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center. And again, Dolores, Vivian, so many people are involved. But you have an exceptional board of directors, which I know have been contributing their time and talent over the years. Speak about that.
We do, and we are very thankful to all of those in the community who supported us, but especially to the board of directors for the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center. And anyone interested in the names of that board will find them on our website.
With biographies.
Yes,
So you
with
can-
biographies so that they can learn who they are. And many of them have been on the board since its inception.
Yes, I see.
People like Dr. Charles Kibbard, who you heard mentioned earlier,
Exactly.
Otis Stover, Phyllis Filer, Many of them are original members of the board.
So-
and of course, Mrs. Filer, our fearless leader. And
Exactly.
so we're just very, very thankful for all of them and their
Right.
support.
They've been continuing this journey with you from the very inception.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But we also want to just mention Von Fraser and Polly Dowdy,
Oh,
who were
yes.
both on
Oh,
our board and
I
just
saw.
gave so much and loved our board so much. So we are always going to hold them in high esteem for all the work
Exactly.
they did
We've
for
lost
us.
them, but
Yeah.
their spirit and
The
memory
spirit is there.
in that club.
It's right there. It's in that museum, and it's
Yes,
going to
I
be there
agree.
because it's very important. But we really also want to make sure that everybody knows that we are community spirited. We are about Gainesville. We're about Alachua County. We're about the history of all of our people, and we're about spreading the news in the most efficient way, but also the most educational way, and also encompassing all parts of our lives. We're
Yes.
musically bound, but we're not all just musical. There are families who have contributed to this city, to this county, who did a work that wasn't at the level of legislation, but
Right,
it
but-
went down at playing the piano at a church.
Right.
And
It
how
all is
important
part
that
of it.
was because they drew in that segment. So we're not a religious organization in such, but we are open to all facets of our community. So we want the churches to see using us as a stopping point
As a place,
for them to
yeah.
hold activities as well. And we want, because we
Great
African Americans have a
opportunity.
wide, yeah, that's right,
Yes.
heritage, and our music goes all the way over to all
And
of
it's that heritage that is so important to the name, as you have said, Cotton Club Museum.
Absolutely,
That goes with it.
absolutely.
Always. Its background was a club, but now the museum celebrates your history, and you've added an auxiliary board.
Yes.
I know we only have
Yeah.
a little bit of time left, but I think that's so wonderful. You're bringing in more community members.
We call them the advisory board, and they are some terrific, hard working. They came in shooting hard, and they're
Good.
fired up, and they love the concept, and we're happy to be there. And we're going to add others, but we thank them too. We thank them very much.
Definitely. And we're almost out of time. Dolores, needs from the community,
Yes.
invitation.
We certainly need the financial support, but just as importantly, we would like individuals to come and work with us, to volunteer, to support our programs. One of the first things we're going to do is to have our gala, which will be our grand opening celebration.
Yes.
That is scheduled for February 2nd, 2019. Information will be on the website very shortly. We're in the planning stages.
I look forward to it. And thank you, Dolores, Vivian, Patricia, and everyone involved in the Cotton Club Museum and Cultural Center for all you're doing to add to the richness of our community. We're happy to celebrate with you and to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. And I'm so glad you tuned in, and I hope you will join us next week. Take care.